브라이언은 캘리포니아에 삽니다. Brian lives in California. Brian lives in California. Brian lives in California. 브라이언은 캘리포니아에 삽니까? Does Brian live in California? Does Brian live in California? Does Brian live in California? 브라이언은 어디에 삽니까? Where does Brian live? Where does Brian live? Where does Brian live? 브라이언은 집에 있습니다. Brian is at home. Brian is at home. Brian is at home. 브라이언은 집에 있습니까? Is Brian at home? Is Brian at home? Is Brian at home? 브라이언은 어디 있습니까? Where is Brian? Where is Brian? Where is Brian? 브라이언은 매일 여기 옵니다. Brian comes here every day. Brian comes here every day. Brian comes here every day. 브라이언은 매일 여기 옵니까? Does Brian come here every day? Does Brian come here every day? Does Brian come here every day? 브라이언은 언제 여기 옵니까? When does Brian come here? When does Brian come here? When does Brian come here? 브라이언은 어제 여기 왔습니다. Brian came here yesterday. Brian came here yesterday. Brian came here yesterday. 브라이언은 어제 여기 왔습니까? Did Brian come here yesterday? Did Brian come here yesterday? Did Brian come here yesterday? 브라이언은 언제 여기 왔습니까? When did Brian come here? When did Brian come here? When did Brian come here? 브라이언은 오늘 좋습니다. Brian is good today. Brian is good today. Brian is good today. 브라이언은 오늘 좋습니까? Is Brian good today? Is Brian good today? Is Brian good today? 브라이언은 오늘 어떻습니까? How is Brian today? How is Brian today? How is Brian today? 메리는 오늘 아픕니다. Mary is sick today. Mary is sick today. Mary is sick today. 메리는 오늘 아픕니까? Is Mary sick today? Is Mary sick today? Is Mary sick today? 메리는 오늘 어떤가요? How is Mary today? How is Mary today? How is Mary today? 브라이언은 행복합니다. Brian is happy. Brian is happy. Brian is happy. 브라이언은 행복합니까? Is Brian happy? Is Brian happy? Is Brian happy? 왜 브라이언은 행복합니까? Why is Brian happy? Why is Brian happy? Why is Brian happy? 그는 메리랑 같이 있기 때문에 행복합니다. Because he is with Mary. Because he is with Mary. Because he's with Mary. Brian is happy. Is Brian happy? Why is Brian happy? Because he's with Mary. Brian is happy. Is Brian happy? Why is Brian happy? Because he's with Mary. 브라이언은 갈 수 없습니다. Brian cannot go. 브라이언은 갈 수 없습니까? Can't Brian go? Can't Brian go? 왜 브라이언은 갈 수 없습니까? Why can't Brian go? Why can't Brian go? Brian cannot go. Can't Brian go? Why can't Brian go? Brian cannot go. Can't Brian go? Why can't Brian go? 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니다. Brian went to Korea. Brian went to Korea. Brian went to Korea. 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니까? Did Brian go to Korea? Did Brian go to Korea? Did Brian go to Korea? 왜 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니까? Why did Brian go to Korea? Why did Brian go to Korea? Brian went to Korea. Did Brian go to Korea? Why did Brian go to Korea? 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니다. Brian went to Korea. 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니까? Did Brian go to Korea? 왜 브라이언은 한국에 갔습니까? Why did Brian go to Korea? 브라이언은 강아지를 좋아합니다. Brian likes a dog. Brian likes a dog. Brian likes a dog. 브라이언은 강아지를 좋아합니까? Does Brian like a dog? Does Brian like a dog? Does Brian like a dog? 브라이언은 무엇을 좋아합니까? What does Brian like? What does Brian like? What does Brian like? 브라이언은 빵을 원합니다. Brian wants some bread. Brian wants some bread. 브라이언은 빵을 원합니까? Does Brian want some bread? Does Brian want some bread? 브라이언은 무엇을 원합니까? What does Brian want? What does Brian want? What does Brian want? Brian wants bread. Does Brian want bread? What does Brian want? What does Brian want? What does Brian want? 이분이 브라이언입니다. This is Brian. This is Brian. This is Brian. 이분이 브라이언입니까? Is this Brian? Is this Brian? Is this Brian? 이분은 누구입니까? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? This is Brian. This is Brian. Is this Brian? Is this Brian? Is this Brian? Who is this? Who is this? Who is this? 메리는 브라이언을 만났습니다. Mary met Brian. Mary met Brian. Mary met Brian. 메리는 브라이언을 만났습니까? Did Mary meet Brian? Did Mary meet Brian? Did Mary meet Brian? 메리는 누구를 만났습니까? Whom did Mary meet? Whom did Mary meet? Whom did Mary meet? Mary met Brian. Mary met Brian. Mary met Brian. Did Mary meet Brian? Did Mary meet Brian? Did Mary meet Brian? Whom did Mary meet? Whom did Mary meet? Whom did Mary meet? 이것이 브라이언의 차입니다. This is Brian's car. This is Brian's car. This is Brian's car. 이것이 브라이언의 차입니까? Is this Brian's car? Is this Brian's car? Is this Brian's car? 이것은 누구의 차입니까? Whose car is this? Whose car is this? Whose car is this? This is Brian's car. This is Brian's car. This is Brian's car. Is this Brian's car? Is this Brian's car? Is this Brian's car? Whose car is this? Whose car is this? Whose car is this? 저것은 메리의 집입니다. That is Mary's house. That is Mary's house. That is Mary's house. 저것이 메리의 집입니까? Is that Mary's house? Is that Mary's house? Is that Mary's house? 저것은 누구의 집입니까? Whose house is that? Whose house is that? Whose house is that? That is Mary's house. That is Mary's house. That is Mary's house. Is that Mary's house? Is that Mary's house? Is that Mary's house? Whose house is that? Whose house is that? Whose house is that? 이것들은 나의 책들입니다. These are my books. These are my books. These are my books. 이것들이 너의 책들이니? Are these your books? Are these your books? Are these your books? 이것들은 누구의 책들이니? Whose books are these? Whose books are these? Whose books are these? These are my books. These are my books. Are these your books? Are these your books? Whose books are these? Whose books are these? Whose books are these? 나는 아침에 6시에 일어납니다. I got up at 6 every morning. I got up at 6 every morning. I got up at 6 every morning? 당신은 일찍 일어납니까? Do you get up early? Do you get up early? Do you get up early? 당신은 몇 시에 일어납니까? What time do you get up? What time do you get up? What time do you get up? I got up at 6 in the morning. I get up at 6 in the morning. I get up at 6 in the morning. Do you get up early? Do you get up early? What time do you get up? What time do you get up? What time do you get up? 브라이언은 테니스 신발을 샀어요. Brian bought tennis shoes. Brian bought tennis shoes. Brian bought tennis shoes. 브라이언은 테니스 신발을 샀나요? Did Brian buy tennis shoes? Did Brian buy tennis shoes? Did Brian buy tennis shoes? 어떤 종류의 신발을 브라이언은 샀나요? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? Brian bought tennis shoes. Brian bought tennis shoes. Brian bought tennis shoes. Did Brian buy tennis shoes? Did Brian buy tennis shoes? Did Brian buy tennis shoes? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? What kind of shoes did Brian buy? 메리는 사과를 먹었어요. Mary ate an apple. Mary ate an apple. Mary ate an apple. 메리는 사과를 먹었나요? Did Mary eat an apple? Did Mary eat an apple? Did Mary eat an apple? 어떤 종류의 과일을 메리는 먹었나요? What kind of fruit did Mary eat? What kind of fruit did Mary eat? What kind of fruit did Mary eat? Mary ate apples. Mary ate apples. Did Mary eat apples? Did Mary eat apples? Did Mary eat apples? What kind of fruit did Mary eat? What kind of fruit did Mary eat? What kind of fruit did Mary eat?